Hello, everybody. This is Joseph P. Farrell with news and views from the Nefarium on Thursday, April 28th, 2016. I'm sorry I missed last week, folks, but I had to take a vacation. I needed some rest. I went out to visit some friends from the website, so that's the reason there was no news and views. I don't like to announce when it is that I go away, but I come back to a set of interesting announcements and a really intriguing story. That's the reason you see me grinning, because when I read this, I said, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." Anyway, the announcements are this. The two new books are out. I received my complimentary copies within a day of each other. So Rotten to the Common Core is out. Hidden Finance, Rogue Networks, and Secret Sorcery, The Fascist International, 9/11, and Penetrated Operations is also out. Now, people have been asking me about the Common Core book. Believe it or not, it really does fit the rest of the books, but it's also kind of an independent, standalone political social essay that a friend of mine, Gary Lawrence, and I wrote concerning Common Core. So those two books are out. They are also up now in the web store. But anyway, I got to get to the story, because we've been watching over the past few years and months this slow, steady drip of stories having to deal with space exploration, with alternative technologies, and so on. And the odd thing is that these stories are not just coming from the usual places or sources. Some of them appear on prestigious scientific websites. Pardon me, I've had a bit of sinus too. Some of them are appearing on websites that have virtually nothing to do with the subject of space. So they're coming out of all corners. Advanced technologies, space technologies. But this one, I have to tell you, this is so very, very strange that I had to read this article twice. Did I really read that? Did he really say that? And did this person occupying the position he does really come out in a public venue and say this? And I had to check it out. This article was sent by Ms. KC. All right, I like to thank her for sending this along, because she really caught it. All right. The article is from the U.S. Army Times, and I will link it for you in this news and views, all right, and on the website, so you can go and read this article, because as a standalone article, if you weren't paying close attention to it, you'd say, okay, well, that's nice. Show the flag, rally the troops. but there's one statement in it that if the audience was paying attention, I can imagine them looking at each other and going, did he just say what I thought he said? All right, here we go. This is an article in the U.S. Army Times titled "Army Chief to Leaders: Winning is Everything in Combat." Okay? Now, this has all sorts of interesting things, but here's the thing. The fellow being cited here is the U.S. Army Chief of Staff, General Mark Milley, all right, Milley, General Mark Milley, and he's addressing an audience of ROTC, Reserve Officer Training, is what it stands for, if those of you in Europe don't know what ROTC stands for. So this is Reserve Officer Training, all right? Now, in his remarks to these people, he's addressing them at Norwich University, all right? And this was an address on April 21st, 2016, reported in the U.S. Army Times on April 22nd, 2016, a day later, all right? Now, I want you to listen to two paragraphs from this article because Again, I had to do a double take, all right? And I'm going to reverse the order of these paragraphs. I'm not going to give you the punchline first and then the other paragraph after it. I'm going to start with the other paragraph and then go back to the punchline. Listen carefully. This is General Milley. He says, cadets preparing to don the uniform will find themselves, quote, engaged in a very deep, long struggle with radical terrorism, unquote, Milley said. They also will face a revanchist Russia, an aggressive China, a provocative North Korea and Iran, and, quote, any other multiple contingencies that may arise, unquote. Now, so far so good. The standard list of suspects: China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and Islamic terrorism. All right, so nothing new here. But now let's go to the previous paragraph, and he picks up a theme that I actually blogged about last week. I blogged about a bit today, this theme of technological competence. All right, but listen to what context it occurs in. Quote, and this is a quotation now. If the world of 1916 was complex, or the world of 1945 was complex, the world of 2016 is intensely complex. And I can tell you that from personal experience, unquote. Now, let me stop right there, because he also, in this article earlier, states that American elan, American character, American spirit is going to carry the day. Now, I blogged about this a week ago. This seems like an absurd sort of assertion to make in the year that we are in the 100th anniversary of World War I. Right now, this year, 2016, a century ago, France and Great Britain and Germany were fighting two of the bloodiest battles in military history, Verdun and the Somme. And the lesson that World War I should have taught everybody was, don't assume that human spirit or character or leadership quality is going to carry the day against a technologically competent enemy. This was the common assumption of the French before World War I, and to a lesser extent all the other major combatants. And of course, we know what happened as a result. So something else is going on here. And notice also that General Milley states explicitly that he knows all of this, what he's about to say. In other words, he knows what he's about to say from personal experience, okay? Now, maybe I'm parsing his remarks too closely and carefully, but the reason I'm doing so is that the next set of remarks are so explosive and carry such huge implications that when you hear them, I think you're going to say, oh my word, okay? So in other words, he may or may not have intended his remark about personal experience to be referring to what I'm about to read to you. But then again, the possibility exists. So listen carefully. Now remember, this is the U.S. Army Chief of Staff. He goes on to say this. Let me begin the quotation again. If the world of 1916 was complex, or the world of 1945 was complex, the world of 2016 is intensely complex. And I can tell you that from personal experience, unquote, he said. Quote, you'll be dealing with terrorists, you'll be dealing with hybrid armies, you'll be dealing with little green men, you'll be dealing with tribes, you're going to be dealing with it all. And you're going to be dealing with it simultaneously, unquote. Let me read that one more time. And I'm sure you're all going, what? But let me read it one more time. Quote, if the world of 1916 was complex, or the world of 1945 was complex, the world of 2016 is intensely complex. And I can tell you that from personal experience. You'll be dealing with terrorists, You'll be dealing with hybrid armies. You'll be dealing with little green men. You'll be dealing with tribes. You're going to be dealing with it all, and you're going to be dealing with it simultaneously. Unquote. Now, folks, the little green men statement there is a clear implication. Not only that there is a possible space threat, but that this threat has already been assessed. And you'll note that the dealing with tribes occurs in the same context as little green men. Now, folks, I suspect that what this is another careful, timed release. It's another drip in the trickle that we've seen coming out in the last few years. This is a huge statement, and moreover, you'll notice that the strategic threat is exactly duplicative of the situation that I argued in 2014 at the San Mateo Secret Space Program Conference, that the American national security establishment at the end of World War II had essentially what it viewed as three major national security threats: the communist bloc, the post-war Nazis, and UFOs. And that it was attempting to deal with all of these things simultaneously. Well, right there in 2016, we're dealing with pretty much the same situation, according to General Milley. So, pardon me, tuck that one in your drip, drip, drip file, because it's a stunner, and I don't see any other way to interpret those remarks. Generals don't make casual, off-the-cuff remarks, other maybe than Patton and fits of frustration or temper. But generally speaking, they don't do this sort of thing unless there is a good long-term thing that they are trying to communicate. And I think that's what's going on here. This is part of the pattern. So that's it, folks. I'm going to see you on the flip side. Don't forget the 2 new books are out. They are up in the web store. Don't forget the tome is out. That's actually making 6 books this year. That's a new record for me. So anyway, that's it, folks. I'll see you on the flip side, and God bless. Bye-bye.